even began. And so to do that, we have to go back to around 2018 or so. So around 2018, I was working in, I think, the accounting field, or the healthcare field. I've done a lot of different things. I've had different corporate jobs. I've also worked in the service industry. I've done DoorDash. I've been my own independent artist as well. So I've just done a lot of different things, social media marketing. And around that time, I was getting this feeling like I just wasn't in alignment, even though I had a pretty strong spiritual practice. I kept feeling like it was very important that I got my work and my career into alignment with who I am as a person, and that was just super important for me. So I was getting some signs that I wasn't in alignment, like the different jobs that I worked, even though I did pretty well and I was typically high performing. I found that I was still like underappreciated, or there was office drama, and I don't participate in that, but sometimes it can just make a place pretty unbearable to work in. And so I did have some experiences like that. And I was also around that time practicing a lot of yoga, specifically vinyasa yoga, heated yoga, and it was really helping me heal a bunch of trauma and things like that I was also working on in therapy. So I got super into yoga and also chakras and aura protection, aura cleansing, that kind of thing. I basically got into the energetics of yoga, and that kind of thing was just very interesting for me and also super rewarding. So I decided around that time that I was going to do a yoga teacher training, and that's where I wanted my career to go. And as soon as I signed up for yoga teacher training, pretty soon after that, I discovered or rediscovered Reiki, and I wanted to combine those two different things and form my own spiritual healing practice, where I'm working with people who have trauma and helping them get back into their body, feel connected and empowered in their body. And so I was doing that. I was working towards that. I finished my yoga teacher certification, and I started teaching pretty quick. And another door opened for me where I could take a Reiki training. And as it so happened, the person who was teaching that Reiki training was another priest of the Morrigan. And so that was just like a big sign from the universe, like, hey, go over here. So, and if y'all don't know, if you're new, I'm a priestess of the Morrigan, which that didn't happen until after my Reiki training. I was just starting to work with the Morrigan. I think around 2018, 2017, we started working pretty closely together. She was with me before that, but that's a whole other video, honestly, which I will make because she's very dear to me, important to me, and sharing that story is important too. But I digress. So it was around 2019 that I finished my Reiki certification, and by that time I had been teaching yoga for a while, and I had started integrating Reiki into my yoga classes that I was teaching, and specifically during Shavasana at the end of class. And so about a year or so after that, I was integrating Reiki by teaching yoga and Reiki classes where we're doing yin yoga, really slow yoga, and I was using Reiki for the students, and also teaching chakra yoga, which also integrated Reiki and yoga together. So this was very aligning and very fulfilling for me. As I kept going, so I got other Reiki certifications along the way, because once I started with energy work, I found that I was just very connected with that. And so I decided to get an additional Reiki certification, which this was actually more of an advanced energy technique type of certification, where I learned how to remove different types of energetic attachment, like etheric cords, like spirit attachments, and that kind of that helped me also form a foundation in how to remove psychic attack and spiritual attack. But that was like the very beginning of me learning how to do that kind of thing. And I also learned soul retrieval methods. So all of these flowed really just very much in alignment with me, because I was able to use my intuition and use that to help me with my energy work. And it was helpful to me also because I could see what was going on in different clients' energetic fields. Because prior to this, what even got me started with my spiritual business journey to begin with, we have to back up even further. So what began the whole thing, we have to go back and even further, like 10 years. And around that time, I was just starting to get into alternative spirituality, learning about past lives. And previous to that, I had pretty much been an atheist. And I mean, that the choices were, you know, I could be religious at the time, or I could be atheist. And so there were things about religion that just did not align with me at the time. So alternative spirituality was more aligned for me. And so that kind of started this deep dive rabbit hole, which led me to my very first entryway into the spiritual field. And that was reading tarot cards. So I got my first tarot deck back in 2008 or 9, and I started reading cards professionally pretty soon after that, because it just was something that I picked up really quickly. And even though it took me a lot longer to learn the cards and to learn how to read in a really in-depth way, that took a long time. And I mean, I'd say even today, I'm a lifelong student type of person, so I still seek out different things to learn about tarot and different ways to read and things like that and develop that skill. So I was reading professionally around that time, and I mean, it just clicked in place for me. It helps as well that I had been intuitive my whole life and a natural medium, and it was just something that, you know, we like barely had the internet back then, okay? So it wasn't something that I was really able to see that other people had that type of experience, or that had that type of gift, and what their experiences were. Some of my experiences were actually pretty strange, and that's, you know, that might be a different video as well. But yeah, it was unusual growing up being super intuitive, being a natural medium, having no idea what was like really going on with that, but knowing that I was experiencing something different, and that I, in that way, was sort of different from other people. Now, I'm of the belief that everybody has intuition, but I don't think it's something that's really talked about, and I think that in a way we are conditioned to turn that off in ourselves. So I think that people naturally disconnect from it, or not naturally, they're conditioned to disconnect from it and kind of overemphasize the logical part of the brain. And I think that the intuitive part of the brain, the logical part of the brain, those two things belong together. And yeah, but nevertheless, I started reading cards, and I worked on different psychic networks for like a number of years. I'd say like, so the last major psychic network that I worked on, I stopped working on it in like 2015, I think, and I did pretty well on there. I had a pretty loyal client base, and so I moved more into entrepreneurship at that time. And I actually went back to work in like the corporate field, and there's a number of reasons why I did that. That might be another video on how one of the reasons why I did that is because of energetic protection, first of all, but also because there's a bunch of things that I didn't know about being a professional psychic, professional tarot card reader. And I wish that someone had told me, so that actually might be the title of the other video, things I wish that someone had told me or that I had known. So that's how I started in the spiritual industry to begin with, was with tarot reading. Now, I still continue to read for clients, on and off up until, even through my yoga and Reiki training I did. But I'd say that I kind of shied away from wanting to do professional tarot reading, professional psychic work, because it burnt me out. I just didn't really have good energetic protection, and there's some things about it that I didn't really like, and so that's just kind of the reason why I didn't want to read on networks anymore, and why I kind of shied away from it to begin with. Today I do read tarot, and I love reading tarot for clients. The whole reason that I even got on YouTube to begin with, I think Spirit kind of pulled a fast one on me, actually, because I was getting the intuitive guidance that it was time to start a YouTube channel, time to start, doing this, and I had a lot of resistance to that. And so I think being a tarot reader for so long, being a channeler for so long, a medium for so long, that was just kind of the easiest thing that I felt like I could do to kind of get myself onto social media and YouTube. And it was, doing a collective reading is way different than doing a one-on-one reading. So that was an interesting experience for sure. There's a lot of energy when you read for the collective. So it was just a different sort of experience. So, that's kind of how I ended up, making the decision to go back into the spiritual field. Is that around that 2018 time, I was just not feeling in alignment anymore. And really, at the heart of this story, it's all about radical self-acceptance. Because, as I said before, I was kind of shying away from doing intuitive work, but being intuitive and being a natural medium is a really core part of who I am. And so I was actually able to tap into that even more, because the Reiki training that I did, it taught me a whole lot about energetic boundaries, energetic protection. That's the reason why I chose that Reiki training, in addition to my teacher being a priest of the Morrigan, which that told me right away that person knew what they were doing when it came to boundaries, because the Morrigan is very fierce, very strong, very protective. So I just had that sense that was the class for me, and I was definitely right about that. No regrets whatsoever. So I had my own yoga and Reiki business at that time, and I named it Rebirth Yoga and Reiki. And I wanted to really focus on healing, transformation, rebirth, and empowerment, and kind of using my skills as a teacher and as an energy healer, and my background in intuitive work to help people become more sovereign and empowered in their energy and in their body, and help them heal, basically. So I was doing that, but I started getting another nudge from Spirit, and also around pretty soon after that was my Saturn's return, which is that's a whole other thing. But I was pretty much getting pushed in the direction of, I have to get more authentic, I have to get more real. There was something about stepping it back into the spiritual field that, it made me, it kind of pushed me to get very uncomfortable, because I wanted to, I wanted to be able to go to a cocktail party and be like, hey, I'm a normal person, I work in an office, not like what's up, I'm a tarot reader, or, you know, I'm a Reiki master. And I had to get super comfortable with that. And so being able to go to a cocktail party and say, hey, I'm a yoga teacher, that felt safer to me at that time. And so that was what I was comfortable with, but it wasn't to be for very long. And I started getting that push that I'd made headway, and I'd gotten to a place of like self-love, self-acceptance, and knowing that I wanted to work in the spiritual field. I'm a spiritual person, and I was more comfortable with people knowing about my spiritual beliefs and what who I really was at my core, which is, you know, a spiritual person, an energy worker, an intuitive. And I was able to bring that through in my teaching, but Spirit was nudging me to go deeper and do some deeper healing, some deeper shadow work. So I started doing that. And so it was about 5-ish years ago that I had this sort of epiphany. And that's when I became aware that I not only had to bring my spirituality into my career, but there were parts of my spirituality that I had left out of my career that Spirit was guiding me to bring into my career. So that specifically would be my spiritual practice. I don't know if I've talked about it too much on here before, but not only do I practice divination, but I also practice candle magic. I'm pagan. I consider myself a witch, but it took me a while to come to terms with the term witch and be comfortable using that. I now feel like it's a term of empowerment for me, but it took me a minute to get to that point. So yeah, around that time, I started to think like really deeply about my business. Where did I want it to go? How was I going to take myself to the next level of authenticity and bring that through in my business? So now we're going to get into specifically Fate and Flame, how it was formed, what it means to me, and what it does, what I'm here to do, what I'm sharing, what I offer. So I was getting the nudge from Spirit to start integrating candle magic into my business somehow. And I didn't really want to do like professional spell casting type of stuff. I do professional ritual work now. I don't call it spell casting, and it's only specific types of ritual work that I do. I don't do lover return types of things. The things that I do really center more around energetic protection and sovereignty, whether that's for a person or for somebody's home, physical location. I also make custom wards, but we can go deeper into that in a little bit. So I started getting really deep into my shadow work and really kind of looking at the core of who I am and what I was not bringing through in my yoga and Reiki business that was, you know, basically just dying to come out of me. I felt like, you know, the universe was trying to pull it out of me. And so I did a lot of healing and self-reflection. And so around that time, as I was doing that healing and self-reflection, I started experimenting with making candles. And that story, my whole creation process there is probably something else to talk about. But I started making candles, experimenting with making candles. And because I was burning so many candles with my ritual work and my spiritual practice, and I was just practicing for myself at that point, because I was doing it so much, I wanted to learn how to make those candles. I wanted to also make a specific type of devotional candle. You know, those glass vigil candles that you can get at Walmart or whatever, or the metaphysical shop. I wanted to make those, and those are something that I make now. I wanted those to have beautiful color, beautiful scent, beautiful burns, and, you know, different container candles that weren't the vigils, other container candles, just to be, have the energy infused within them for the specific ritual purpose, but also have really beautiful scents and burn really well. And I found that the different things that I was buying at metaphysical shops and things like that, there were things going on with the candle that I preferred just to be different. Like the wick size wasn't correct, so the wick would kind of drown in the wax, or there would be a lot of soot, or there was no scent to it, or there were so many like flowers and things on top of the candle that the whole thing would like pretty much catch fire. Some of my candles now do have flowers, but I attach them in a certain way so that they don't cause those kinds of issues. But I was craving something like that, so I decided to create that, or at least try to create that. And it took me years to get my formulas a certain way. And I also started making ritual oils, ritual powders, and things like that around that time too. And I started putting that stuff out on Etsy. So I had my Morrigan candles, my devotional Morrigan candles, out on Etsy. I made one for Baiv Katha as well, who's the Morrigan sister. And those were doing, pretty good. And so it was just like a number of years of reformulating those and kind of expanding my line. And then I guess we're 2019 now. Around that time, I initiated as a priestess with the Morrigan, and that initiation kind of set me on a different track entirely. And it's not that I didn't take yoga and Reiki along with me. I did, but it's in a different way. One of the ways that I serve the Morrigan is through oracular work, offering readings, offering trance work readings as well, where I am channeling and or doing trance work to commune with the Morrigan on clients' behalf and things like that. So that's one of the things that I started tapping really deeply into when I was doing deep work with the Morrigan. And so I started doing readings, more and more readings around that time too. So now we're into where fate comes from. So when I was doing readings for clients, when I was working on psychic networks and stuff, those types of readings are kind of like someone will pop into your chat and, ask you something that should be a yes or a no, but it goes so much deeper than that with readings. But basically, the main theme of what people were asking me is, what is the fate of this situation? What is the final outcome of what I'm inquiring about? What's going to happen? And the more I read for myself and for clients, the more it just became obvious to me that fate is not something that is set in stone. It is not a predetermined script. There are things outside of us that hold power, but we ourselves hold so much power as well. And knowing what power we have inside of us, as well as the external power structures that exist outside of us, knowing those two different things is what helps us weave our own fate, create our own fate. And so I started to work with weaving fate and kind of tailoring my readings to how my clients and I can move through the world in a way where we are empowered to create our own fate. And divination was just a way for me to connect to the energy and see what the energy is and how things can move around so that the desired outcome can be achieved, or if another message is coming through entirely, if there's a new course that is better, or if there's a door closing, that kind of thing. So it's not just fate with Fate and Flame, it is creating fate, weaving fate, tapping into intuition and really honing intuition so that fate can be created and so that we can have that spiritual connection and be able to tap into the messages that the divine, the universe, whatever that is for you, whatever that is, so that we know how to move, so that we can be guided. And so that is what fate is of Fate and Flame. Now, as far as flame goes, yeah, I do absolutely make candles. Fate and Flame in its entirety is priestess-made ritual products and ritual services. So I absolutely do make ritual candles and offer other ritual products, and I do some candle services as well. But flame goes deeper than that. Now, flame is where we get into empowerment, because fire is a symbol of, it's a symbol of action, it's a symbol of power, it's a symbol of transformation. So flame is basically the action that we take in the world to create the fate, the outcome that we desire, whether that is through spiritual means like candle magic, like prayer, like chanting, like meditation, energy work, whatever that is, or if it's a mundane action like making a new friend, maybe cutting some people out of our lives, setting some boundaries, applying for a new job in a totally different career field, mundane action. Both of these things together, the spiritual flame and then the mundane as well, all come together to help us weave fate. And so that's the flame part of Fate and Flame. Let me see what else I wanted to talk about here. I had notes, y'all, so that I could talk about everything and not forget anything, and I didn't follow my outline at all. And it's just kind of unscripted today, kind of flowed out. So I guess at the core of my story is, if you are wanting to find work that is more spiritually aligned with who you are, the story might be similar for you, where it's going to be a journey of radical self-acceptance and kind of honing what the core of you is, and then finding those things that you want to bring into the world and offer. What I wanted to offer was healing, empowerment, transformation, and also, I think I wanted to share my story and let that be a source of inspiration for others, or even just a frame of reference for others, that it doesn't have to be perfect as soon as you get out of the gate. You know, you don't have to have everything perfect. You do not have to know everything, and you can absolutely change it along the way, for sure. So I think that's all I have for today. I hope that you all enjoyed this video. If you did, please do leave me a like or a comment. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I would love to have you. We're going to be discussing some more things in terms of Fate and Flame. And if you have a request for anything that's within my scope, then do leave me a comment. I do take requests. So have a beautiful day, everyone. I will see you all next time. Bye.